Skype, and returning guest and friend and creative assistant for Kimberlite Enterprises is Cara Ware. Hi, Cara.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you, girl?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I love the red hair. Is it, do you get it darker or?
It is a bit. I actually did it today as I went because I realised I was starting to look like a skunk. I just had my grey and my dark brown hair coming through, so I dyed it this morning. But I won't shoot. I didn't dye the back.
Oh,
because I thought no one's going to see that, so I just did the front.
You look gorgeous, honey. You look gorgeous. I'm so glad that you came back, and I know you're always open and willing to share to inspire our youths. As you know, the basis of the show is future prospects. But now, my love, we are in the transforming back to normal phase.
Yes.
And it's a lot to cover on the show. So you're always so open, deep, but full of wisdom and wise information. So how have you been feeling moving forward with this?
Oh, it's just such a mix of feelings, and it's not just COVID-19 and coming out of the pandemic, and we're not even out of it really. It's just that Canada's in a better position than most other countries.
Yes.
But it's everything else as well, and just the last time we spoke, it was 100% about this virus and just protecting people. And since then, all these other human-centered issues and crises have come out, and it's been amplified and people just taking advantage of it. So I feel driven, but I also feel just there's so much every single day. And every time my news alerts pop up on my phone, I just think, what now? What now? And there's just hardly any good news. And so I think everybody's just seeking normalcy, which we really don't have and may not ever be able to go back to.
Right.
Partly because they've missed it from being locked up, but also just because of all the horror that we're having to look at and deal with. And I think people just want something that feels safe. Yes. And that's really, I find that weighs on me most days, just knowing that all this is happening around the world. And there's not many people who are able to fix things at the moment.
Yeah. When you say weigh on you, now yourself being a young, beautiful, successful young lady, youth are looking at us now, myself and everybody, for advice, guidance. But when you say it weighs on you, everybody's feeling that, especially our youth. And how is it that you feel it's weighing on you? Can you just share that part of it? Because it's a good conversation there.
Yeah, for sure. It's so I like to try and fix things.
Yes.
Anyway, that's just how I'm set up, and sometimes it can irritate the hell out of everybody that I'm talking to. But it's I just feel like you are more productive when things work. And I think that applies on an individual level, on your social circles level, and then globally, it just makes sense if things are working and there's just harmony running through everything. Right. You don't have to agree with everything, but you at least have to be able to move forward and not keep pulling us back into the dark ages.
Right.
And so I'm one person, and so it's obviously, and I don't have any power in that way in politics and in government, but it's just, I wish I could do more, and it makes me anxious at times. I'm not an eternal pessimist with things. It's just when it feels like it's getting heavier, it feels like we need this unanimous force to come together and just change things. And I think recently that has started to happen.
Yes.
But people still can't agree even when they're on the same side.
Yes.
And it really just slows us down. And I feel as though everybody could be more successful if we just stopped picking at the details and the semantics and stopped playing games, and everybody just communicated with each other.
Mm-hmm. You know, Doug Ford now as of, what was it? I think the second phase, when the restaurants can have people out, right? Now, as of this Friday, we're going into the third phase, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I think there's like 8 regions, which
Right?
aren't, but most are as of Friday.
Right. So now, movie theaters, gyms, restaurants can have indoor, right? Clubs can open up. What is your perspective on that and your, again, wisdom with young people? Like when you look at it and we're young, they want to get out there, they want to chill out. Like, let's be honest, I've had my days of partying and hanging out in the bars, right? But now they can't. They can't, they can use their eyes and look at somebody, but you can't physically dance. You can't do stuff. You got to walk around now. It's mandated with the masks. So
Yeah.
what's your feedback on that, my love?
But I feel as though the youth, they see things, sorry, stuttering there, so we'll start that again. The youth see things so differently. And it's the same with every generation, because your influences and your interests and what's trending are different to the people who came before you.
Right.
And so I think there's so much creativity and opportunity there. And especially as the youth are more willing to go out on the most part, not everybody, but you could really put in place some good change for people who aren't able to go out, who are too nervous to go out. Right. And I would love to see young people create something with the skill set that they have, just innovate and create ways to make restaurants safer. If you're working as a server, how could you step it up to see the customers happy and to know that you've helped protect them whilst they enjoy themselves? And a lot of these things that we're having issues with opening up versus this idea that our freedom's being infringed upon is poor design. And we're trying to make things fit into this box that we call normal.
Right.
But the reality is that it can't be. So stop trying to make it fit and create something better. And I think, especially in the way of schooling and students, this particular group of youth, they want to be going back to school to get their education, especially if they've paid for their university tuition. Right. And they know what the makeup is of these particular institutions, and they know how they need to study. So help your universities design your space, and talk to your universities and say to them, I would be more comfortable coming back if it looked like this. Or perhaps, have you considered doing it this way? Me and my friends have created something. Could we try it out? And you might come up with something fantastic. And I didn't go to university, and I haven't visited one recently. So I can't even begin to suggest what the best thing would be for you, because I'm not that user.
Right.
But if you are the user and you're current, you are the best people to implement something. And that applies to everything that the youth are doing at the moment, whether you're still in work or you're at home. You are living your issues. So you are one of the best set of people to help fix it.
Right. You know something? That's why I love you so much, because you talk so real, but I can't even find, I'm going to talk like Joy. You talk real and you talk so honest and so simple for us to digest. Now we have to wear the masks as of Monday. I walked into one shop, 4 o'clock, I think it was around 4:03, I forget now. I walked in there, my love, and the lady put her hand up really nice. And she goes, no, you can't come in. And I went, oh. And she goes, well, I can sell you a mask. And I says, no, I don't want to buy one. I have one at home. Went back home, put on the mask, went back out. How do you feel about that now, that we have to, it's a mandate, we have to wear the masks? What's your thought on that? Because a lot of people are not liking it.
Yeah. Well, actually, in Dufferin County, our health board in phase 2, yes, they actually put that rule in place. So for about 3 or 4 weeks, we've had to wear them when we go shopping locally.
Oh.
So there was a fuss. There's a Q&A group for Dufferin County and some of the towns, and people were losing their minds and saying it was freedom infringement, whatever. But I don't mind My only issue, and I'm sure you'll find this too because you wear glasses, when I go out, I put my glasses on with my mask and then my glasses steam up when I breathe.
Yes.
And that's the only thing. So I'm kind of walking around the supermarket trying not to walk into people. That's about it. And if that's my only issue,
right,
then really it's not that big of a problem. I just kind of move them before I go in the store. So I can't, sounds gross, but smell my own breath. Make sure you brush your teeth first. That's my major advice. And then just make sure your glasses are positioned so they don't steam up when you walk in, and then you should be fine. But it's not an infringement. I can't. I've read a lot of the reasons, and it's not very long in your day, because you don't spend hours inside buildings at the moment, and it gives you more of an incentive to get in and get out if it makes you feel uncomfortable. And you have to think as well, surgeons and doctors wear these every day as part of their job. And so if you're thinking that they're uncomfortable, again, this comes back to design.
Yes.
So things that we're complaining about at the moment, they're not designed correctly. They're not designed for the user. They're designed for one intent, and that's to protect other people, but they're not designed for comfort for the user.
Right.
And it's the only thing that I am concerned about is for deaf people, because those who lip read are suddenly struggling when people are wearing face masks.
Right. I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's obviously something that's kind of been swept under the rug a little bit, but there's small news articles online and in papers, and then a couple of my friends have parents or relatives who are deaf who've been talking about it online and complaining about it from that aspect. But the same with most issues that we have, it's how everything has been set up. The design is just quite simply bad from that perspective. And so, again, if you've got a degree in design or textiles, something like that, please invent something, A, that's comfortable,
right,
and B, that suits the user. It's accessible. So no matter who you are, you're going to be able to use this product comfortably and make it fashionable.
I'm telling you, Cara, youth, take note of this. This young lady is giving you some work to do within challenging times. On that note, sweetheart, we got to go to break. We'll be right back, guys. Future Prospect Skype. Tune in.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more.
When you're online, Rogers TV on YouTube shares news and events from your community. Like messages from local leaders, updates on the latest health news, local business presenting their new offerings, and how our local communities are working their way through these unprecedented times. Visit and subscribe to Rogers TV on YouTube for the latest local information.
Welcome back to Future Prospects with Cara Ware. That's why I love us, because we Brits, we just talk. We just chat. We just put it out there, you know? And I love the way you talked about the mask, smelling your own breath, and that's real. You know what I mean? Off camera, could you just share with me just 1 minute before we get into the next conversation? What was that you said to the cashier when you were talking about it? Share with us.
Oh, yeah. So the first time that I had to, well, I was always wearing the mask anyway, but
Right.
I just remember when everyone started having to wear them, I'd just had my morning coffee and then I went food shopping. And as I was going to the checkout, I just said to the cashier, is it just me? Or have you suddenly realized how bad your breath can smell after you've had coffee? And she just looked at me and she went, oh, I know, it's horrific. And so it's just one of those things where I wondered if I was the only one and I was just having an issue, but no, there's quite a few people who agreed with me. I was just the first one to say it.
Oh my God. It's so real. It's real. It's real. And people do it. And I love the way that you bring it to the platform. It's good conversation. I left you with this one because I was asking anything that you would like to talk about. And you're open to say, Joe, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that. All right. But there's one thing I want to talk. There's a lot of challenges out there, right? A lot of challenges. And your insight on that was really, really good when you sent it over to me. So what's your thought on the challenges that youth are dealing with, what you are dealing with within your own circle? What is it that you can inspire our youth with? And I know you talk from the heart, Cara, so go for it, hon.
Well, this year
Yes.
has basically thrown everybody off track.
Right. Derailed.
Completely. And it's amplified issues that already existed, as we talked about on the last show that I was here. And then at the same time, it's really made other people think, wow, I did not know about problems until this time.
Right.
And whilst those things are, nobody ever wishes this on another person, let alone the planet.
Right.
But there is opportunity, and I think it's highlighted to many people what's important to them. And I feel as though, again, getting creative and just, instead of trying to go back, because back there last year, that was part of the track to how we got here in the first place. So clearly we need to get back on the rails, but on a different set, and just go somewhere else and we can build something better, because I'm not sure that where we were was heading in a particularly great direction. We were kind of losing focus and we weren't really talking properly to each other, to our countries, to our neighbours. And now we can see what happens when we're forced to stay home and we feel like we can't take any action, and we realise how little we've been paying attention to the stuff. Then the question is, why do you want it to go back to normal? What does normal mean? What does normal mean to you? So my advice, again, the youth, and that's everybody who's just graduated and younger teenagers, even 10-year-olds watching this, just, you guys are literally building the future, and you are looking up at everybody else that's running things, that owns everything, that dictates the law and the rules and how you do things. Right. And you're probably looking at a lot of it and thinking that doesn't make any sense, or that doesn't suit most people that I know.
Yes. How
could it be different? Make it better. And you guys are the ones to do it. And the reason why that is important as well is because you're going to have to live in it and raise your children in it.
Yes. Uncertainty. Yeah. I've heard a lot with young people. They always say, oh my God, it's uncertain. They don't know. Going back to school, gap year, should I take a gap? Should I work? I can't find work now because people can't let me in their office or their buildings. The uncertainty of their future. They've read about it in history books. They've read about it throughout school. They've studied it, Cara, and now they're living it, and they're like, holy cow, now what do I do?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
your thoughts on that, hon?
Well, it's partly, and this is a message to the youth as well, but also the people that are teaching.
Yes.
And that's not literally just teachers. That's parents. If you have a friend who has young children, anybody who interacts with young people, you need to know what it is that you're communicating. Are you only talking about shallow stuff? And that's fine. You can sit and talk about celebrities on TV. We all need that where we kind of just switch off and it doesn't really matter. Yes. But it's the important things that you actually having the important conversations with children and with teenagers and with young adults. And many people who interact with the youth will have been through major recessions before. The recession or the economic environment that we're in now is not the same as other recessions that we've been through, but they will have been through economic hardship and uncertainty in some format. So we rarely talk to kids about money and the importance of it and how much of it actually goes into paying bills and life admin. And it's just preparing them. And a lot of the kids now, they'll be so uncertain because they don't have these conversations. Right. So they're thinking, well, I should probably go out and get my own place, but I have no idea what that even means. Yes. And they're sadly ignorant and not through their own doing. Right. We've elected not to educate them on life. And so it makes it harder to fix problems because they didn't know what they should have been doing to begin with.
Right. Do you feel like we bubble wrap them? We've always said this, and like we've always protected them, right? We don't really want to tell them, like, let's be honest, even just what we've gone through and still keep going through right now, it's a conversation on different races and differences, things like that. Oh, you can't go there. Oh, it's tready waters, you know. But now, bam, COVID's put in front of our face. It's unleashed a whole bunch of stuff. Old age homes, long-term care homes, like, it's like a cat. Every time you go in, it's like a jigsaw, different puzzle box we keep opening up every day. You know, like, are we preparing them, or, you know, what do you think?
I think it depends. So I know a lot of youth, and particularly the age group where they're moving into becoming teenagers.
Yes.
And that's a very curious age, and their thought processes are, I just find it so deeply amusing because they're in this wonderful hybrid of child and adult, yeah. Which is really quite amusing. But people underestimate how aware they are of things. And my partner's children, I actually made sure they came over here when the protests were first happening in the US. And I said, I don't care that they're 10 and 12. We are going to talk to them about what's happening because this is a key moment in their history that they're living through, and they need to get why. And they understood it. They had questions. Yeah, it's how you explain it. Yeah. Because everybody feels like, oh, we shouldn't talk about it at all. That's because it's awful. Mm-hmm. And then if I say, well, no, I think it's a good idea. I think they'll get it. It just depends on how you talk to them. That's right. And people suddenly think that I'm going to start telling them horror stories that will stop them from sleeping at night. Right. And it's like, no, you don't have to give them the really gruesome details. Right. But you tell them why things are wrong and why things are right and what equality is and what freedom of speech is and what freedom of speech is not as well. And the kids, they got it and they were interested. And that's the other thing. People think they're going to find it boring and they really don't. It's literally how you talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Did they ask you questions? What kind of questions did they ask you, Cara?
So they were surprised that race was still an issue. And part of that is their environment. And as everybody's kind of pointing out now, like, children aren't born with prejudice. They're babies. And they've clearly been raised where they haven't had ideas planted in their head, and their school friends aren't that way either, which is nice. But then on the other hand, that topic has been avoided completely. So they didn't even know it existed. Right. Or they couldn't understand what was happening. And they weren't sad as in crying. It hadn't upset them deeply. But you could see that they were just so confused why one human being would treat another human being in such a way simply because of their skin color. that made no sense to them whatsoever. And so that was where the curiosity sort of peaked, because it was, well, why? Why was this police officer being mean to this man? Is basically the way that they're looking at it. And you kind of try and walk them through history in the nicest way without fully bombarding them with it. But they clearly didn't agree with the brutality. They didn't agree with the inequality or the injustice. And for several days, in fact, the following weeks, as it continued, they would come over and we would be watching it. They would sit with us. And when they called, they would say, so what's happening? What's next? And they just want to know.
That's beautiful. No, that is the way it should be. Because I've always said this, and I will continue to say this. I don't want to spend my life being a color. My name is Joy Foster. And I don't want to be introduced as, oh, welcome to Future Prospect, Joy Foster. Oh, by the way, I'm black. I don't want to do that because that's pretty... No, really, that's messed up.
I know. Just that was such a British way you delivered that as well. Okay. Oh, by the way.
But it's true, though.
I know, yeah.
No, Cara, when I talk to young people now, it's like they look at me now and it's like they're trying. I'm saying, what are you looking at? And they go, because I'm looking at the color, not the person. That blew me away. And I'm saying, so what's the difference? And they go, because people are talking about the color, where I've always just looked at you as Joy. So that's where the problem lies. We're always bringing attention to the color. And I don't know what it is. It's just like, it's an ongoing conversation. I know you and I have had numerous conversations on it. What would you like to see? Just give me one change, because I don't want to cut you off through a conversation, but what kind of a change would you like to see through this? That's deep, Cara.
Oh, pardon, sorry?
What kind of a change would you like to see that's deep with you? Just one change. I know you've got many, but one change.
I think just my moral compass, and I'm always open to be challenged. But right now, I think the topic for me is just understanding equality across the board and how crucial that is for our survival as human beings. As soon as we stop treating anyone with the respect and the dignity and the rights that they deserve, simply because of something that they were born into, that they have zero control over, or their religious beliefs, then you are removing basically what's holding us together as a society, as a planet. And there's too much of that at the moment. We just quite simply do not view everybody as equal. And whilst we're in that space, we can't grow.
Love you, girl. On that note, we'll be right back, guys. Future Prospects at Cara Ware. Stay tuned.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
There's a tremendous artistic community in Simcoe County that impacts a great deal on my paintings. Part of being an artist is looking a little bit differently and thinking, I could crop that out, I could change that a little bit, and that would be a good painting. The land and the trees and all of that lends inspiration and to my process. But then I also have traditional paintings, portraits and things like that.
After involving Nuha in this program, she feels very confident. Here you have a lot of opportunity.
I learned a lot of stuff, like being kind and I'm more open-minded.
Welcome back to Future Prospects Skype with Cara. Two Brits she's having her tea and I'm having my coffee. Raise it, honey. What's in your cup?
I got it from the AGO. I don't know if this is going to be backwards. It just says art makes you happy.
Oh, nice. And it's right, you do art, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, that's my peaceful activity.
Okay, we're going to have you back and show some of those pieces, huh? Because what a lot of youth that love art, a lot. Now, before we came on, I asked you what is it that you'd love to address. So communication is very deep with you, and you send that over to me on a text. Why is communication so valuable to you, and what's going down in our world today?
So communication has always been an issue for me, and not an issue in that I can't communicate. Sometimes I speak far too much for other people's liking. But as far as I'm concerned, if I communicate and I tell you exactly what I'm thinking and feeling, obviously respectfully and when it's appropriate, then nobody can ever accuse me of not being transparent, of having an agenda, of being false, of hiding how I truly feel. And I encourage that in my relationships, both friends and partners, and with my family. And then new people that I meet, I'm exactly the same way. As soon as I meet them, they're just, wow, you're honest, like with the bad breath thing. Just, it's not that offensive and it's true. So it's... and if it's not affecting you, then it's only affecting me, so it's fine.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, the issue that I have with communication is how very few people are actually able to comprehend how important it is.
Yes.
And every time I see a conflict in my personal circle and they say, what should I do? I'm just saying, how about you just talk to them instead of playing games and ignoring them or screening their phone calls, right? And I've had many people who get grumpy with me for either something that I may have done and I didn't realize, or they misinterpreted something that I did. But instead of saying to me, oh, that hurt my feelings, they hold it and then it festers and they don't tell me. And then 2 months later, I find out they had a problem. And I just say, I can't fix it if you don't tell me. And you know I'm not a horrible person. So if you tell me I've offended you, I will, A, apologize, and B, make sure I don't do it again. And just then applying that to a global level where it's just so many people, world leaders are just so eager to hear themselves speak, but yet their communication is appalling and their message is appalling, and it's just propaganda and hate speech and just narrating some weird verbal stream of consciousness that's going on in their mind. It's all of it is down to communication. I'm fairly certain, without taking some sort of survey, that 99% of our problems could be fixed right now if people just were comfortable and able to articulate themselves in the right way. And the perfect example here is with you, with Future Prospects and Joy Foster. It's all about communication and talking to people, and that's why people connect with it, because people are actually communicating and not just saying what they think they need to say in order to be liked or in order to be promoted or in order to appear better and more successful than they actually are. People are honest and they know what to say.
Love you. Who was... Okay, when did you find your voice to voice your heart without any apology When did you find that voice? Because a lot of youth or people have a problem in doing that, like you just shared. When did you find that voice?
I'm not sure. A lot of it will be from my childhood.
Okay.
And I think you've said to me before, Cara, were you the oldest that tried to fix everything?
Yes.
And that was 100% true, and you recognized that in me almost immediately. But I was a confident child in that I would talk to everyone, even at the age of about 3. And I would go up to people in restaurants and ask them if they were enjoying their dinner, and just stand at the table and stare at them and say, is it good? But so I just never had a problem with speaking. But I can't remember when that something shifted, and I just felt as though when I see things I don't like, I should probably say something, because in my early teens and through some of my school years, I know that there are occasions when I saw bad things being done.
Right.
And I was too scared of the bullies myself to say anything.
Right.
But I feel like it was just growing and meeting so many different people, and just realizing that a lot of people can be mean without realizing they're being mean.
Yes. And
those are the most productive conversations you can have, because you can kind of gently nudge and say, I don't think you mean to be picky or be a bit harsh on that person. And then you meet so many people who just don't care, and they hide behind that thing of, oh, I say what I mean, like, yes, I'm an honest person. And the people that say that are usually the nastiest. And yes, they pretend honesty is what they're doing. They pretend they're being honest. They're actually just wanting to use that as a mask for being mean. And I think after a certain point, something just clicked, and I thought, I'm really bored of this. So we should probably have a conversation and see if we can stop it. And then you start attracting people who do the same thing, where they just kind of speak up and in a nice way just be honest about situations and how they need to change.
You feel that should come from parents? Do you feel that mentorship should come from the parenting?
Yes, 100%. I think that a lot of what is taught, and it's the nature versus nurture debate.
Yes.
Your environment shapes you so much.
Yes.
And so parents or any kind of guardian are key to a child's development. And some kids are just born and they're just so desperately shy and just don't say anything, and they don't want to talk to anybody. But you still can teach them to speak up. And it may take a little bit longer than the kids who are overly confident and had a big mouth like I did. But it is possible. And all you're doing, if you don't teach them these things, is you're either setting them up to be mean because you're not teaching them how to treat people fairly.
Yes.
Or you're setting them up so that when they see injustice being done, they're not going to say anything, or they're going to walk by, or they're going to, or they're not even going to notice it. And that's a key issue in our society right now, is that you have a couple of different groups of people, the people who are being victims of abuse or inequality, the people doing the abusing, and then you have this group of people that don't fit into those categories who are either trying to help frantically,
right,
and then this little group over here who decided to remain neutral and not say anything, or it makes them feel uncomfortable, but they think, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. Oh, well, it doesn't really affect me. I don't agree with it, but I don't want to help. And that's a dangerous position to be into.
So well said, hon. Oh my God, I can't wait to get you out speaking. There was, through all this stuff that goes on right now with the racial and whatever, the hate and everything like that, and it's a big conversation. We got to keep the conversation going. It was a young person that came to me the other day, and she was just talking, and she goes, you know something, Joy? It really touches me, the article that you were interviewed by the Herald newspaper here in Alliston. And it was a young man that's going to be coming on the show. I'm going to mention his name, Patrick Whitten. He's a past guest. But long story short, he said he broke down crying. He literally broke down crying. And I said, really? He goes, Joy, because that was very hard to talk about in a small community. And it blew me away that it was here. And he said, it's wrong, but you have allowed us to talk now about issues that we deal with. If it be racial, discrimination, LGBT, whatever. It's allowed them now to say, well, if she's so open, she's extended her hand to say, okay, come grab my hand and let's just keep going. And that really touched me because it was hard for me to do that, Cara, in my own way, because we have a son. And I asked his permission, Michael, to do it. And it's a small community again, but it was hard. But I had to communicate the truth. And the truth has to always be part of the forefront. You and I have had those conversations. Why is it so important to be honest and not play these games and close our eyes on things?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I may,
go for it.
I think something key there that you, in your own personal story, touched on was just you suffered these really horrific situations in a town that's very local to both you and I.
Right.
And yet you're the person saying, I found it really difficult to talk about that. And I think, but you weren't the one doing the evil deeds. You weren't the abuser.
Right.
And that's where our society gets things so backwards, is that in any situation where somebody who's been on the receiving end of something awful,
right,
they feel like they have to stay silent, or they feel like that there's just going to be repercussions for talking up, or they feel like they're not going to be believed, or they feel like my pain isn't something that people want to talk about. And yet the people who commit the crimes aren't the ones who have to prove their innocence. It's always the people who are on the receiving end who have to explain.
Yes.
And that always sits so uncomfortably with me. And just my question to you is that something that you relate to and would like to see changed? Because obviously that story you said, was hard for you to address, even after so many years. And it was a really moving and eye-opening article. I mean, how would you like that to change in the future?
Well, you know something? I'm going to bring that up. Thank you for asking, because I will answer. But I'm going to digress and just go to break. But I will answer your question, Cara. Keep watching, guys. We'll be right back.
Through United Way, I did a self-esteem course, training for peer support, and now I volunteer. It's a lesson that comes from the nature of doing work with the United Way that gives me a new lease on my life.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
It gets you out into the community and you meet so many new people and experience so many new opportunities, and builds my self-esteem and my confidence level. What I've learned here as a new volunteer is different skills that I thought I would never even be interested in learning. I'm Chantal McCush, and I am a Rogers TV volunteer.
When you don't have the people there to support you that you know you should, your world kind of like spirals. But United Way has been the biggest change coming into high school. Having the ability to help kids succeed is so important.
With Cara Ware. So Cara, can you just remind me of the question, just to recap on the question you asked me before we went to break?
Yeah, so the question was around the article which you contributed to with your personal story from about 20 years ago, I believe. And as you were explaining, you mentioned that it was difficult for you to do that and not really something that you'd addressed before. And we touched on how more often than not, people who are victims of hate crimes, of bigotry, of assault, abuse, it's always the people on the receiving end of it who feel like that they can't speak out and they feel like it's difficult. And I want that to change. And my question to you was basically, how do you feel about that? Now that you've done it and the newspaper article was printed, did it feel like a weight had been lifted? Do you feel as though that the feelings that you had, the anxiety about doing it, looking back, how do you feel about that now, that even though you were the one who was hurt, that the people who did it weren't the ones justifying anything and trying to prove their innocence, or it was you that continued, you carried it with you and felt like you couldn't talk about it? So would you want that? How do you feel that should change, and how can we change that? Sorry, there's a lot of words though.
No, honey. No. Be yourself. Like I said, always be exactly the way God made you. When I was addressed by the Allison Herald to share something, have you ever dealt with anything in Simcoe County in our community? And I thought about it back to the time when we found the swastika emblem on our Audi. And when I was walking our dog Benito around town, and man saying you're going to burn down your house, and literally this little car, it felt like in Alabama, in America, those cars running after the guys, and that guy's walking down the street and he's running and they're throwing all these words at them. Everything came back. Everything just uprooted and came back. And what gave me the courage to share it was my son. Him. And also, I'm going to get emotional here because that's who I am, is our youth. Young people who deal with Black children, if it's not any Black, it's just the hate. I got to build the hate around it because racism is hate. And it just built up inside of me, Cara, and I just came out. It just came out in an email to Brad, and who's an awesome writer at the Herald. And it gave me the courage that I had to speak. I had to just put it out there and let it go. Let it go. And it was the fear. It was a little bit of a fear. A little bit then, because I'm from the city coming up to a small town. And I always thought, oh my God, I'm in a small town and it's predominantly white people, but it wasn't actually in front of my face until that evening and the afternoon that I walked my dog. That's when it hit me, because I've never ever looked at color. And I have shared that on the show before with Sydney Narain on Black History Month. I've never looked at color. I was never brought up to look at color. But that time it boomed in front of my face and I was like, God, this is still going down. And I said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I just said it and I spoke it. I had my next door neighbor cross the over. He started to talk to me about it. He shared his story on what his son dealt with at school, being invited to a party. He's white. The young man was Indian. And the other white gentleman called him out in the party. These are only 7 years to 8 years old. So this evil garbage is still going down. And if I don't be honest to myself, as well to the youth, which I represent, as well as yourself, they're going to inherit this garbage. That's why I did what I did. Am I afraid now? Heck no. And it's made me more powerful in a way of what I'm doing. And we got to put this to bed. It's got to go. It's going to be a long road, like Martin Luther King and everybody else has done it. And we're going to have to embrace our hands, because you can tell in the marches that it's not just black fists up there, it's white fists, Indian fists, Syrian fists, everybody, Italians, everybody in there fighting for it. And I'm never going to give up on it. But it did hurt at first. Yeah, it did. It does bring tears to my eyes still when I still see things. But the only way that's going to happen, as Season says, is love. And got to keep doing it. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's understandable as well. Just carrying, the emotion is just there on the surface.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as you start looking at it, and anybody who's experienced anything similar, or anybody who's experienced trauma at the hands of another person, it's always like, it just stays with you.
Yes.
It's so shocking, and just like, I'll get animated now, but it's just so deeply wrong and unacceptable to just abuse another human being in such a way. And I don't know. I think it's so important, and I'm so grateful that you shared it. And I cried when I read it. Because it's just wrong. I don't know, that you can say as many words as you want to try and describe it, but bottom line is, it's wrong.
Yes.
There isn't a debate. It's just wrong.
You know, when you think of the world right now, COVID is literally here for a reason. It's here for a reason. And it's shining the light on a lot of stuff, hon. It's brought you into my life, Sean and I's lives, and you're a godsend. And you're an angel of light that's taken us to a whole different level with our mission. But when I look at hate, bullies, when I think of what I went through, or many others, like mine was just a scratch of the scratch. But young people that have lost their lives through bullies, through discrimination, through homophobia, whatever, I just go, okay, enough is enough. When you see it, when you see that, it's like it gives me an anger, but a force to say enough is enough. And if parents aren't going to do their job, I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure that those youth have a job. It could be the Prime Minister, it could be the Board of Education. It doesn't matter anymore what levels you stand on. The truth, if you want to talk, as we have talked about in our blogs, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And you know, and I don't want to lose any time from you, hon, but we've only got 8 minutes and we only have 12 and a half. So you're coming back though, sweetheart, you're coming back. But is there any other stuff that you'd like to touch upon before we leave?
So again, it's kind of tying back from communication.
Yes.
And understanding the different kinds of communication.
Right.
And another thing, and this ties into your story, this ties into the current environment of the world, and communication is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And it's been something that's just irritated me so much, because particularly in the US, everybody keeps saying, well, this is my freedom of speech. I could say whatever I like. And it's, okay, so physically, yes, you can say whatever you like, because you are an autonomous human being who controls your mouth and your voice. So, but the one thing you can't do is control what people do back to you.
That's right.
And freedom of speech is not limitless. And people actually don't understand what freedom of speech is.
That's right.
Saying something that hurts another individual, or if you threaten somebody and it's a legitimate threat, then that is not freedom of speech. If it's slander, that is not freedom of speech.
Right.
If it's breaking the law, that is not freedom of speech.
Right.
And we've become so consumed in this freedom, and the people that are just kind of driving everybody else nuts at the moment, because I just think if we could all get on board, we would be through this much sooner. Right. And it's like driving and you're just saying, like, don't stop making me come back there. I just really don't want to. I will pull this car around.
Right.
And we don't know what freedom is. Nobody knows what the actual definition is. And so they are making it up in their heads, and it's doing so much damage. And that's what we need to get right, is understanding what freedom of speech is, and then educating the youth immediately on what freedom of speech is and what it is not.
And use your words wisely. Use it wisely. When you said that, communication, it's like that was Michael is taking part of his degree at McMaster. People on communications. It is huge what you're saying right now, because like you said, leaders can't even talk. Right? They can't even know how to talk. And that's another show. But at the same time, it's vital, because friends don't even know how to talk to friends. They talk with this sarcasm, and it's dropping words where they don't realize they're hurting other people's feelings. And that is dangerous. You know?
Yep. Yep. And it leaves a scar as well.
It does.
Because a lot of these friends, shall we use quotation marks there, they generally target the places on a person that are the most vulnerable.
Yes.
Because they know them so well. And they may see it as banter or a joke or lighthearted back and forth or whatever, but really it does affect people. And everybody has stories from their high school that they carry with them of somebody in that one moment just targeting their vulnerability. And even in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they will recall that story to the finest detail. And there will be moments, if not a majority of their time, where that has actually led to insecurity in their adulthood.
You got it, girl.
Fleeting moment for the bully, forever for the victim.
You got it. One word to the ladies, because we have to let you go, honey. One word to the youth. What's your one word to the youth? Just one word. I'll let you go.
Hope.
Hope. On that note, love you, honey. You're coming back. Do the heart. Do the heart. Do the heart.
Okay.
There you go.
I can't. I'm coordinated. I can't do this.
Bye, sweetheart. Bye. Bye.